My name is Ethan Carter, and if you looked at my life from the outside, you would probably think nothing surprising ever happened in a quiet Ohio neighborhood like mine. My days followed a steady rhythm that rarely changed, and honestly, I liked it. That way, a typical morning meant waking up to the sound of my mom calling from downstairs telling me breakfast was getting cold, while my dad prepared for work with the same calm efficiency he used for everything in life. Our house was the kind of place where shoes were always lined up by the door, where dinner happened at the same time every night, and where nobody raised their voice unless the dog knocked something over. Safe, steady, predictable. That was the Carter family. Growing up in that environment, I learned something early on. Feelings made life messy, emotions made people unpredictable, so without even meaning to, I became the kind of kid who built quiet walls inside his own head. I was serious even when I was 6, cautious when I was 12, and by 17 I had mastered the art of staying at a comfortable distance from everyone around me. My friends joked that I acted like I was 40 and tired of the world already whenever someone asked why I never liked anyone, truly liked them, in the way other guys did. I always shrugged and said I just don't. That was easier than admitting the real truth. The truth was that letting people close felt like giving them permission to see my weak spots, and I did not want anyone to have that kind of power over me. I thought staying guarded meant staying safe. Then came the day that knocked something loose inside the structure I had built. It happened the week a new girl transferred to our school, a girl named Lily Thompson from somewhere down in North Carolina. She was not loud or dramatic, and she did not dress like she wanted to be noticed, yet somehow she always was. Maybe it was her calm confidence, or the way she paid attention to the world, like it was speaking to her in a language only she understood. Whatever it was, it made people gravitate toward her without her even trying. I was not one of those people, not at first. When she sat next to me after class one Tuesday afternoon, I felt my shoulders tense automatically, like my body was trying to keep my distance even when my words stayed polite. She watched me with this steady, thoughtful expression and said something that caught me completely off guard. "You talk like someone who has been holding his breath for a long time." No laughter, no teasing, just a quiet observation that landed deeper than she could have known. Nobody had ever seen me like that. Not my friends, not my parents, not even me. Something shifted after that tiny things. At first, I found myself listening when she spoke, lingering in places where she might appear, looking at my own reflection, and wondering when I had started hiding so much of myself. It felt like Lily had opened a window in a room I forgot existed, and suddenly new air was rushing and warm and startling and impossible to ignore. But the truth is, this was not really the beginning, not the real one, because what came next would change everything I thought I understood about myself, about family, about the safe life I believed I wanted. And I had absolutely no idea that the biggest shift of my life was already on its way. Life in the Carter household stayed steady on the surface, but beneath it, something in me had started to move like a slow current I could not control. I still woke up to the smell of coffee drifting through the hallway. I still heard my dad listening to the same morning news station every day, and my mom still reminded me to take a jacket. Even when the sun was already warm, everything looked the same. But I was not the same. Lily had planted a thought in my mind, and it would not leave no matter how many times I tried to brush it aside at school. I caught myself searching for her without meaning. To my eyes would drift across the cafeteria, glancing over backpacks and lunch trays until they found the familiar shape of her brown hair, or the soft flannel shirts she always wore whenever she noticed me looking. she would just give a small, almost invisible smile. And somehow that tiny expression made my chest tighten like I had forgotten how to breathe. We started walking to the bus together. Sometimes she would talk about North Carolina and the warm, humid evenings where cicadas buzzed like a constant song in the trees. I would talk about Ohio and how winters felt endless and heavy. It was simple conversation, but it felt different from anything I had known. She asked real things, not what classes do you have, but what do you want your life to look like in 5 years? Not who do you hang out with, but who do you trust when things get hard. Questions that slipped under my guard before I even knew I had answered them. One Friday afternoon, she asked if I ever felt trapped by expectations. That word hit me hard, trapped, because even though I loved my family, I sometimes felt the weight of their quiet routines pressing on me. My dad expected responsibility. My mom expected calm. The world expected me to follow the same path everyone else did: baseball, college, a job, a quiet life, no complications. So I told her the truth, a truth I had not even admitted to myself. Sometimes I do feel trapped. She looked at me with that same gentle, steady gaze that had cracked my walls the first day we met. Her voice softened, and she said, "Then you deserve to find something that sets you free." That sentence stayed with me long after she walked away. Over the next few weeks, something strange happened. My parents noticed. I talked more at dinner. My coach noticed. I played with more intensity. My friends noticed I was not drifting off into my own head as much. Nobody knew why. Nobody knew about the new spark in my life. Nobody but me. But life has a way of shifting right when everything starts to feel balanced. And for the first time ever, I felt like I was stepping out of the person I used to be, like I was becoming someone new, someone braver, someone willing to feel instead of hide. I should have known that change never happens without a cost. I should have known something was coming, something big, something that would shake the foundation of everything I thought was safe. And it arrived on a night I will never forget, knocking on our front door like a warning. I had been too blind to see the night that changed everything. Began like any other calm Friday in our quiet Ohio neighborhood. My mom was in the kitchen, humming softly while stirring a pot of chili. My dad sat at the table, sorting bills into neat piles like he always did at the end of the week. The living room filled with the low glow of the lamp and the familiar scent of spices and home. Nothing seemed unusual, nothing hinted at the shift heading straight toward us. I was upstairs in my room pretending to study, but really my thoughts had drifted to Lily again. Her voice kept replaying in my mind that sentence she said about being free. It echoed through me like a truth I had been afraid to hear my entire life. I lay on my bed, staring at the ceiling, imagining the sky over North Carolina, the one she always talked about, filled with warm air and fireflies. For the first time, my carefully controlled world felt too small, too still, too predictable. Then a loud knock echoed through the house, firm, unexpected, like someone hitting the door with purpose. I heard my dad call out, "That head, get it!" And moments later, another voice floated up the stairs, a voice I had not heard in years, a voice from a part of the family we never talked about. I sat up fast, my heartbeat thudded in my chest. I moved to the top of the stairs and saw my dad standing stiffly at the open door. Facing him was my Uncle Mark, my dad's younger brother, the brother he had not spoken to since I was 12, the brother whose name was followed by tense silence every time I asked anything about him. And now here he was on our doorstep, looking worn, tired, and older than I remembered. My mom walked in from the kitchen and stopped cold when she saw him. Her eyes flashed with shock, then worry, then something heavier. My dad did not invite him in at first. They just stood staring at each other like two storms measuring the wind between them. Finally, my dad stepped aside, and Mark entered quietly carrying a duffel bag that looked like it had lived in the back of a truck for months. The air in the house felt tighter, the way a room does right before thunder cracks open the sky. They all sat in the living room. I stayed on the stairs, hidden in the shadows, listening. My uncle spoke. First, he said he had nowhere else go. He said he needed a place to stay for a while. He said some things had gone wrong in his life. Serious things, things he did not want to talk about in detail, but things that scared him enough to come here after all these years. My dad rubbed his hands together the way he did when he was wrestling with something inside himself. Family was important to him, but old wounds ran deep, and whatever had happened between them was a wound that had never healed. Still, after a long, quiet pause, he agreed Uncle Mark could stay temporarily, just temporarily, but even that small decision felt like a massive shift moving underneath our house like plates of the earth grinding against each other. When Mark carried his bag to the guest room, I noticed something else. He kept glancing at me, as if there was something he wanted to say or something he did not want me to know. That night I lay awake listening to the unfamiliar footsteps in the hallway, the steady rhythm of a stranger who was also family, a man returning with secrets heavy enough to bend the air around him. And I could not shake the sudden cold feeling that his arrival was not the start of healing, but the beginning of something far more dangerous. That none of us were prepared for. The next few days felt different in ways I could not explain even to myself. Our house had always been a quiet, steady place, the kind where footsteps were predictable and conversations never rose above a warm, gentle tone. But with my Uncle Mark living down the hall, the air felt heavier, as if someone had dimmed the lights even when they were shining at full brightness. A strange tension lived in the corners of each room, and every time I walked past the guest bedroom door, I felt that tension shift like it knew I was there. My mom tried to pretend everything was fine. She cooked bigger dinners and asked Uncle Mark polite questions about how he was settling in, but her smile never reached her eyes. My dad grew quieter than usual, speaking in short, careful sentences, like he was afraid that one wrong word might split the fragile peace holding the house together. And me, I just watched, listened, waited, trying to understand what had brought my uncle back into our lives after so many years of silence. One night after baseball practice, I came home to find him sitting alone on the back porch, facing the yard. He looked tired in a way that went deeper than lack of sleep. His shoulders slumped, his hands trembling just slightly as he held a mug of coffee. The porch light shined faintly on him, making him look older and more worn than he had the night he arrived. I stepped outside, hesitating for a moment before walking toward him. He did not turn to look at me, but I could tell he knew I was there. He had a way of sensing things before anyone spoke. After a long, quiet moment, he finally said that I had grown up. His voice carried a softness that surprised me for a second. He sounded like family, like someone who had been missing from our lives, but still belonged somehow. Then his voice shifted, changed, darkened, as he warned me that life was unpredictable, that sometimes things followed you long after you thought you had left them behind. I did not know what he meant, but something about the way he said it made my stomach twist nervously. Before I could ask him anything, my dad opened the sliding door and told me to come inside so Mom could set the table. The moment was gone, the conversation cut short, but the uneasy feeling stayed with me over the next week. Things grew stranger. Late at night, I would hear Uncle Mark pacing the hallway as if he were guarding the house or running from something in his mind. More than once I heard him whisper to himself, the words low, urgent, impossible to understand. One morning, I noticed his duffel bag slightly open, and inside I saw papers crumpled, receipts, a torn map of the Midwest, and something else I could not make sense of. A photograph, weathered, folded edges burned faintly. I could not see the faces clearly, but something about that picture chilled me all the way to my core. Then came the night when everything shifted from uneasy to alarming. I woke up to the sound of hushed arguing downstairs, my dad speaking in a tense whisper, my uncle answering just as quietly, but with a tone filled with fear. I crept down the stairs, stopping before they noticed me. Their words were low, but I caught pieces. Someone looking for him, a mistake. He could not undo a promise. He broke a danger closer than any of us realized. My heart pounded harder with every word. Whatever secret my uncle carried was not small, not harmless, not something that would fade with time, and worst of all, it was now sitting inside our home, waiting to explode.